Hey everyone, I'm Alison with Better Half Reviews, and today I'm talking about Apistocracy. This is a game and art design by Heather Dixon, and it's on Kickstarter. In Apistocracy, it is 1851 in London, and it is your season debut. You are working throughout the weeks to try to become a season favorite by earning the most Victoria points. No, Queen Victoria, 1851. She's also your round marker. So let's talk a little bit about the game. You have calling cards to spend each round, and you can spend your influence to do different actions. You could move up the beehive to attend different events, and perhaps ride in Hyde Park. You could take a turn in the ballroom with the Lady of the Ton, or perhaps make connections with the Lord and Lady in the Lords and Commons. You may sit down for your silhouette and one day work up to a full portrait. Perhaps you like gossip and need to hear the tea about others. You can go to the tea room for secret objectives that may give you a leg up in points. Or maybe you want to go to the parlor to collect different cards to help you with your whist game. Each player has unique abilities on their boards, and some of them are unlockable as you play through the game. During the game, you'll have opportunities to increase your influence tokens, clubs being the lowest and all the way up to hearts as the trump suit. Each player will have a host influence token and a beehive influence token, each having an A and a B side, the B side being stronger and unlockable at one point during the game. When you use an ability, you twirl it, yielding it unavailable until the next round. On your board for the Lords and Commons and Ton section, placing cards starts free but gets more expensive as you place more and more cards. Cards may give you immediate bonuses and opportunities for endgame scoring or abilities. When placing your calling card or playing a card into your board, you can spend influence tokens and or cards of matching suits or higher to do so. As you're collecting cards, it's good to be mindful of the shields that you get from the Lords and Commons and the Tons, because some of the tea room cards will give you extra points for collecting certain types of shields. There are many ways to score Victoria points throughout this game, and the player with the most points will be the season favorite of Apistocracy. Alright, so now that you know a little bit about the game, let's talk about how I feel about it. So, let's just go straight in with some of the pros. So the pros, at least for me, I really enjoy the theme of the game. I've been a big fan of, Jane Austen stuff and other period shows, movies, etc. So the theme was like, oh, cool, I'm going to try to be the belle of the season and try to be the favorite and, like go talk to people at the Ton and go get some tea. It was just very thematic in the way that you're, placing out calling cards. I just loved it. And the mixture of having bees with it, so that's kind of where the name comes from. So it's aristocracy and apiary, with bees, so apistocracy. And it was just very charming with the artwork. I know there's going to be some adjustments to how the artwork looks and some of the coloring of things, but it was just charming with like, oh, you're going to these different places, but like this board, it's a beehive, and I don't know, it just is very charming and a wonderful theme, and I liked the use of cards. So rather than spending point tokens and other things like that, you have your cards that have the different suits, and you can also have the influence tokens that are the same suits. And I liked how it tied in where it's like, okay, I'm spending this spade to try to go to the ballroom and talk with somebody, but at the end of the game, these same cards that I may be collecting or playing are going to be used for a game of whist, which was a very popular game back then. Just a little trick-taking game. And so I just love that everything that was used felt very on theme. Aside from that, with being on theme, there was just so many little details that were added into the game because Heather designed the game and did the art, like with the cards, all having different dance steps on them. And I'm like, are you kidding me? That is super creative. So it's like, yes, it's a two spade, and then they use the two spades in the middle to show a dance move, and even put the name of it, the minuet I'm not even going to pronounce that. But I just love that just little uniqueness to it. It didn't have to be added, but I love that it does that, and it adds even more to the theme that's already everywhere in this game. Another pro to this game is there's lots of different strategies you can have and it can vary from game to game. So there's different types of T cards that are available that may influence the types of cards you go for in the Ton and Lords and Commons, because it's like, oh, try to collect these types of shields. But maybe some of the cards that are showing up are like, hey, if you try to go for silhouettes or miniatures, you may get some different discounts or different abilities. So there's different things that you may go for. I do like that the different players have some different abilities, so it makes it a little bit unique to whoever you are. I know there's been some tweaking going on with some of the abilities, but I appreciated that it's like, oh, you know, if I'm playing as Lady Tuesday, I'm going to have this ability. Or I'm like, no, this time I'm going to play as a Lord. And so it can change up your strategy and your abilities, and even with your starting cards. So with the green player right now, each card or each player has a different club ability. So this one has double club. So this makes some of the things I want to do a little bit cheaper because I can spend one card for the price of two clubs. Another pro that I like is this game, other than things being expensive, it doesn't feel punishing. So there's lots of different ways to get points, and even if you're kind of not having the best of strategy, you're still likely to get some good amount of points from cards that you're collecting. And then there's different bonuses with like, oh, you're the first to complete getting your silhouette all the way up to portrait, or the first to get up to the top of the track, etc. So there's just so many different ways to get points, and it doesn't feel like an overwhelming way, but it does have a bit of a point salad feel to it, which I enjoy, but it's not too overwhelming. So I'll talk about maybe some of the cons, but please note that this is a prototype, so some things have changed or will be maybe tweaked or adjusted. There is a bit of luck to it. I mean, this is a very strategic game, but there is a bit of luck with the T cards, because you can't control what you're going to draw and when you draw it. Um, so maybe you're trying to find a card that has this particular shield on it, and you keep going to the tea room and you're not getting it, and you're like, oh, but with that bit of luck to it, I mean, you do get some options of choices, but with that bit of luck to it, you have to be adaptable in your strategy in this game. So there is a lot of strategy, but there is a little bit of luck with cards that are available and cards that you may draw. Some of the other cons that I had were maybe just a little bit towards graphic design, but this is a prototype, so things are already changed since I've gotten this prototype. She talked about changing some of the different art and making things stand out so it doesn't look too overwhelming at first when you're looking at the main board. Honestly, that's most of the cons, and most of the cons I can think of that I had with the game were little bits and tweaks that are going to change by the time you get your copy of this game. So other little details about this game that I loved, when she was talking about how to play the game, and you know how when you're playing games, lots of it's like you're scoring points or victory points. But in this game, since Queen Victoria is the one who's reigning over everyone, your game is for Victoria points. And I could not get over that. I love that. And so after I played this game, anyone I would tell it about, I'm like, hey, and you don't get victory points, you get Victoria points. And it's just like so many details like that are in this game that it just made me love it even more. It's like Victoria points or calling cards, and it just, this game is just so charming. It's one of those games where you play it and then you just keep thinking about it. So that's what happened to me. This game was not on my radar at all. I was at Dice Tower West, and then a friend's like, hey, you should go check out Apistocracy. It's a prototype. I'm like, okay. I like playing prototypes, never heard of it, but I'll give it a go. And I played it, and then I just kept thinking about it and thinking about it. And so I went back up to Heather, and I'm like, hey, I love this game enough, and I keep thinking about it, that I would like to cover it. So here I am. And even as this is a prototype, there's a lot of things in it that I already love. So I love having like these little bee tokens. I hope that she keeps this, but in the game board, all the areas that you can go to kind of have like a different little textury feel to it, and I love that. So it kind of like makes a different sound. Yeah, so the art is charming, like the backs of cards, little beehives, little teapots. I love it all. I don't know. One thing I hope for is like maybe even a fancier bee for your first player token. That would be cool. one of the big changes that have happened, and actually was kind of one of my cons that people were getting confused on, are these. So I don't have the updated thing with me. But for your silhouette, miniature, and portrait, instead of having cards, I think everybody will have their own like card or token, and then you'll have little tokens that look like the silhouette, and you can place it on top to show that you've completed it. That way it's a little less confusing. So I do like that change, and that was one change that I felt like was necessary. On a quick side note, if you're worried about colorblind friendly things, I do know that some of these colors will be changing. So the prototype, just the coloring didn't show up quite exactly how they wanted. So like the purple and pink and blue look very similar on here. That's going to be altered for the actual Kickstarter version of the game. So overall, final thoughts, I quite enjoy this game. It's dripping with theme, but it's also a very enjoyable strategic game. There's interesting choices, and I like that there's a little bit of secrecy to it where you don't know what some of the people's end game objectives may or may not be. There's just, it hits the mark with everything for me. Good strategy, good art, good theme, charming, and lots of unique details that were added into the game where you can tell that this person loves games and they play games, and so they designed a game that gamers would love. So if you are at all interested in the theme or in medium games, I highly recommend checking out Apistocracy. I can't wait to see all the different stuff that's going to come out in the Kickstarter and see what the final product will look like, because I just really love this game. Alright, lords and ladies, that is the game Apistocracy. If you are interested in checking out more or want to look at the Kickstarter, I'll put a link in the description down below. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give a like and maybe subscribe. I'm Allison with Better Half Reviews. Happy gaming! Seriously, great marketing here. It's a fan, and it's appropriate to the game. Take a sip of water, take a sip of water. It's good, it's good, it's good, it's good. No, my water! I promise I am actually trying to record. I'm just having a moment of weirdness. Ah, this helps on a cool summer's eve. A warm summer's eve. Whatever.